Yo, what's up gamers? This is Damron with Trash Ass Gamers bringing you another Elder Scrolls Online Veteran Dungeon Guide. This is for Crypt of Hearts 1. Crypt of Hearts 1 is found in Rivenspire, which is in the Daggerfall Covenant in the northwest portion of that area. This dungeon's not too bad. I actually think it's kind of cool, the aesthetics of it, the kind of undead feeling. Really cool dungeon. It's pretty fun to run. It is a short dungeon, but I still like it. So let's move through. If you haven't seen these videos before, I will fast forward through the ads, but I will keep these videos complete so you know exactly where I am and how I got there throughout the dungeon. We'll focus mainly on boss mechanics, and if anything else is in the dungeon that I think you need to pay attention to, I'll bring that to your attention. So the first boss we're going to come up here is the Mage Master, who himself isn't really a mage. He has a dual-wield sword that he swings, and he's got some mages around him, and these mages will create fire AoEs. So you certainly want to stay out of those AoEs, and just try to burn down the mages with your AoEs, and focus your burst attacks spammables on the Mage Master himself. As you can see, he doesn't have much health, and you can kill him pretty quickly, but you're still going to have to kill the mages as well. You need to kill all the ads. They won't just disappear when you kill him. So wipe them up. He's not too bad. Have the tank hold his light and heavy attacks, and you'll be just fine. So we'll meet up at the next boss. So the Archmaster Siniel. Siniel is a pretty cool boss. He's not going to move, he's just going to stand here right in the middle, and you definitely want your tank to absorb those light attacks that he shoots out with his staff. They can certainly cause damage to you as a DPS just because he fires them out quite rapidly. He'll also randomly turn around and fire these little poison AoEs on the ground, and you're definitely going to want to stay out of that, as that cumulative damage will certainly hurt you over time. You can see one behind me in the bottom right of the screen, but he'll spawn a couple of those throughout the fight. Now periodically in the fight he'll do this. He'll gain this shield and create this kind of turquoise light, and you'll see these zombies kind of coming in and running towards him, and they'll try to hit you. But eventually you can take them down with your AoEs, but if you don't, they'll kind of explode and do some damage on you. But I like to just really keep focusing on Archmaster. Even though he has that shield, I really just like to keep the damage on him and let these zombies kind of die from AoEs as they run in. If you kind of do that method, you'll be able to burn him pretty quickly, but mind you, stay out of those AoEs and, you know, kind of heal through the explosions that happen, and you should be able to kill him pretty quickly. So let's move on. So our next boss here is basically in a large flame colossus called Death's Leviathan. His light and heavy attacks aren't too much to worry about for the tank, so as long as the tank holds him, you should have no worries. Now the few attacks that he'll do that you need to be aware of is his charge attack, which you see there. He actually ran right through the door perfectly. So if the tank actually lines him up into the corner of the room, which you'll see here later, he'll basically just run into the wall, and that way you can keep your AoEs on him and you don't have to worry about constantly moving around the map. So you want to kind of get him in this corner over here facing the wall, which the tank will do, which is good. So he'll go boom, and he'll basically stay in the same area. And he'll also do a large AoE around him kind of stomp attack, and that will do a little bit of damage, but not too much. You don't really need to worry too much about it. Just kind of keep your... See, you can block through it actually and dissipate the damage, but it'll still knock you down. So if you want to back up out at it, you know, you'll save time DPS wise because you won't get knocked down, but again, it's not going to cause too much damage to you. So finish him up, and we'll meet at the next boss. So which is up these stairs here, and I will point out that a lot of people will skip this boss in the Undaunted dailies because Uulkar Bonehand is not included in the bosses that you have to kill, but you need to come up here if you're going for a no death or a speed run or just the Vanquish or Conquest or challenges, as he is included on those. So not too bad of as a boss. You'll see he spawns a few AoEs that do cause a little bit of damage, and they'll stay on the board, as well as these attacks where you see all of these spike-like things come out of the ground, and they'll have an AoE around them, and then within that AoE, another AoE will charge, and when it hits the maximum length of the AoE, they'll explode. Now, if you're inside that, one, you can probably take it, but you don't really want to take that damage because if you get hit by a couple, that can certainly kill you. That's really the only attack that you need to worry about. Is light and heavy attacks are nothing that's going to give the tank any trouble. So just stay out of those explosions and the smaller AoEs that he just lays on the ground, and you should be able to kill him no problem. Alright, so moving on to Dogas the Berserker. Dogas will kind of bring in some adds throughout the fight, just some Banekin and some skeletons. They're not going to cause you really too much problems. He's more of a mini boss. He has very little health, and you'll clean him up pretty easily. Just make sure the tank grabs the light and heavy attacks from him, and everyone else just kind of bursts spammables on him, and you'll take him out in no time. And that's really the last little boss before our final boss, so let's clean him up. And then we'll go up here for the Ilambris twins. Alright, so let's read our scroll as we're coming up on the Ilambris twins here. So we're going to be fighting two different people who have two different mechanics, and we'll talk about each of them separately as we're fighting the Ilambris twins. Now, the main thing is that one of them will stand in the middle, the fire person, Zaven, and Ilambris, the Athor, will move around the map. So the tank really wants to hold on to Athor, and we'll talk about his attacks in just a minute. So let's focus on the other one, the Ilambris twin, who kind of stands in the middle, the mage with a lot of fire type attacks, which is the Ilambris Zaven. So a couple attacks that he'll do. One, he'll just light attack with his staff and just shoot fireballs at whoever he's aggroing. Then another thing you'll see him do is kind of raise up in the air that you saw there, and when he slams down, he'll shoot lines of fire basically in all directions. So make sure you're in a gap for that. And then he'll also just shoot a single flame on the ground and directly in front of him occasionally. Now those flames can certainly cause a lot of damage if you're standing in them, so be aware of those attacks. And then the other attack that he'll do is he'll charge up, and you'll see a large circular AoE growing around him. That reaches its maximum radius, he'll explode for flame damage, and as a DPS character that can definitely kill you if you're not blocking or roll dodging out of it. So if you're in a situation where you may not be able to get out of that AoE, make sure you're blocking or you may well die. So that's it for his attacks. He's not really going to move, so he's going to kind of stand on the platform, and ideally you want the tank to kind of bring both of the enemies kind of close together, but that can't necessarily always happen because Athor tends to roam around. So just try to focus on damaging them both, because you do want to kill them both at the same time. If you kill one way ahead of the other will enrage, and his attacks will be much stronger and much more rapid. So let's talk about Athor himself. So he will light and heavy attack with his axe. And the tank definitely wants to maintain that aggro, because if he starts attacking with his axe on the DPS or the healer, they can certainly die from that pretty quickly, especially that heavy attack. That heavy attack can definitely one-shot other players other than the tank. And another thing he will do is he'll basically randomly launch these lightning AoEs onto the map, which you see actually right there with that little bubble on it. Now those are simple low damage output AoEs that you really don't want to stand in, but they don't particularly cause the type of damage that Zaven does. So really you want to focus on, if anything as DPS, you kind of want to focus on staying with Zaven, and when the tank brings Athor around, you can kind of lay your AoEs on both of them. And then as you near to killing one of them, try to flip-flop between the two when you're executing, so that you kill them relatively at the same time. So we're going to clean these bosses up, and that's the general mechanics that you need to know. And we'll finish them up, and we'll talk about the monster set at the end. Alright, so not too bad of a dungeon, pretty fun. I really like the look of it again, that kind of dead look. So the monster set that's going to come out here is the Ilambris set. Very, very good set for mags and sorks. This is great. Basically, when you deal flame or shock damage, you have a 10% chance to summon a meteor shower that is of that type and damages all enemies, and it's going to occur every 8 seconds. So it's actually a really great set for sorks. I like it a lot. So if you found this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.